ConversionAB show. Today we have Sima with us, who is the founder of Optiphoenix. Optiphoenix is one of the most popular CRO or A/B testing agencies from India, and he has an experience in working with VW. VW is one of the look up to A/B testing tool out in the market from India to the world, and most people don't even know it's from India, right? So it's a proud product from India, and Simar is one of the early team of it, right? He worked with Paris over the years and seen how working. So we'll get on this journey, how Sima started his career, then landing in VW, then eventually Optiphoenix, the brand, the agency. We've been running it for the last 8 years, I think, right? For the last 8 years, how has been the kind of clients you work with, what has been the learnings, and we'll talk about more about tools as well as the AI is the one keyword buzzword is happening, right? So how do you see the industry being evolved with the AI tools, and how do you see this domain growing, right? And the long forward and the long why I am like going long on this, that and Simar is one of the person I would say back in 2015, when there was like CR or A/B testing. For the audience might be global viewers, right? They might not be aware of how the industry is in India, right? So everyone is going behind the Google ads, Facebook ads, everything. And Sima set out to build a CRO agency. It might be he might have to convince a lot of people what is CRO, and then now is Optiphoenix one of the look up to. I talked to, we had this show with a bunch of other guests as well, and when they mention India, they know Optiphoenix. That's how the brand has been out in the market because of the kind of relationship he built, the kind of clients he worked with, and he built a long network of clients as well. So on this episode, we'll be learning more of this. Welcome Sima to the ConversionAB show.
Thanks, Felix. Thanks for a quick introduction about Optiphoenix and our journey. So I would love to speak more about our journey as well. So thanks for having me here.
Awesome. Yeah, tell us about for the audience, you might be new face, but the Optiphoenix brand must be, most people will be aware of it as well, right? So how has that journey been like? Maybe start from the career as well. Maybe after college or something. What was the career you went on?
Yeah, so I never really thought that I would land something like this. All I had in mind was that I wanted to start my business at one point. I wanted to be an entrepreneur just because my dad. So it was a family thing that I wanted to do it, but the thing that I had in my mind was that I always wanted to do something on my own, not join the family business. But never really thought of CRO. And at that time, back in 2011, right, when I graduated from college, it was never a thing, right? Like I never ever heard about. Of course, e-commerce was still sort of new here in India, right? And especially like even before COVID, it was like not really a thing here in India. Of course, it was like Amazon came in and then it started picking up. But even till 2020, it was not as big as what it is today, right? 2011, I graduated as a B.Tech graduate engineering. Then again, all I had in mind was to just secure a job, see how the corporate world looks like. I joined Infosys, didn't really like it, how it was there, right? Because I wanted to sort of understand or rather get new challenges or face new challenges every day, which was not the case over there. So I thought that, okay, probably this is not the thing that I want to do. I quit my job in 2012 without having any other job in my hand. I'll see and explore what can I do next. And that is how I sort of by chance landed my job at Wingify, which is Visual Website Optimizer, as a customer success manager, right? And that is how the journey started. The domain was new, everything was new to me, right? I did not really know what is A/B testing, what is CRO back then, but again, what I had in my mind was a zeal to really learn about this thing, right? How it works, and there I met my co-founder as well, who's Kamal, right? Who was also, and it's such a coincidence that he was from the same college, but we never really chatted at that time. He was in the Infosys as well, but never really got to meet him. But then he landed a job at VW as well, and that is how the friendship sort of started. And we thought, from 2012 to 2015, when we were at VW, we thought that, okay, this is a good thing. A lot of companies want to do it, not in India, outside India. But even the mature CRO agencies who were doing it at that time, being a customer success manager, I have seen it very closely, the way that they were doing it versus the way how it is supposed to be done. Right, so there was a big gap in terms of like how they were setting up the test, how they were doing the research, analysis, running up their test, concluding tests too soon or rather running it too late, maybe doing like 3 experiments for in a year, right? Buying a $20,000 tool and just doing a 3 experiments per year is not going to take you anywhere. So that is how we realized that okay, there is a big gap in the industry that we need to bridge, and there was no CRO agency at that time from India, right? And we thought that okay, since we know this space so well, why not we start our own agency? And that is how it just started in 2015 from home office.
Before going ahead with the agency, right? Tell us about the stage where VW was in, right? When you were part of
Yeah.
it. And it might be, you are experiencing something, when CRO or A/B testing was never a keyword, right? So that itself is if you look back, that's a next level experience, right? So how was working with Paris Chopra like, and what was the stage in VW was, and what were the kind of clients they had? Was it always e-commerce? No, it was definitely would not be e-commerce, right? It was something other.
Yeah.
What was that learnings like in VW?
Sure. So when I started my journey in 2012, I think there were like only 15 people. I think I was the 16th employee, and they did not even have a HR at that time. And I think they hired a new HR, and I was her first hire at VW. So that is how the journey is. And I was personally interviewed by Paras, who of course I respect a lot, because he has evolved how people look at A/B testing CRO in India, outside India. And at that time, of course, VW was quite young, but at the same time, there were only a bunch of A/B testing tools that were available in the market. So there was no probably Chameleon, there were no A/B Tasty, or there were no other tools, right? So primarily there were like only, let's say, Google content experiments. If you remember, right, it was just a split engine, right? You could only do split testing with that. Or there was Optimizely, right? So whenever usually people wanted to talk about A/B testing, they always looked up to like VW or Optimizely, right? And that was kind of, and at the time, I think VW used to offer sort of a plan which was just $49, right? I don't think so it exists anymore. So that is how it was. And primarily, I think a lot of media houses, I remember, wanted to do optimization at that time. More than e-commerce stores, there were a lot of lead gen / media houses who wanted to do optimization. Rather, I would say content optimization is what they were looking for, right? And I think e-commerce sort of slowly came into the picture, and sort of that is how it evolved, right? And majority of the clients again that they had were outside India. I remember within India they had maybe ICICI Bank, right, or HDFC Bank, right? So the banking sector still wanted to do it, and this is something that I have also observed while running an agency as well, even till date. A lot of SaaS businesses in India want to do optimization because probably they are tech first, right? So they understand the data, they understand what goes behind it, and is the reason why they want to do it first. Whereas e-commerce is still like they want to invest heavily on paid and getting the acquisition, right? Whereas they're still not so bullish about the concept of optimization, right? But I think that changing. We have seen a lot of changes happening within this year, wherein we have gained a lot of traction from various different brands who want to at least get an understanding of what it is and how they can do it.
Yeah, makes sense. So in 2015, you said to start Optiphoenix, right? So what was the beginning like? In a country where A/B testing and CRO is still new, right? And what were the kind of initial clients you had? And do you recall the first test you ran, or kind of CRO something optimization? What was that? Was it a failure or was it a success? And what was the extra upliftment, if you could share? And then on maybe the latest or the up. And I think you work with the bigger brands right now in India. And what has that been like? Yeah.
So I remember our first client, securing our first client. It is so funny that we have this, because the first client that we had was from India, and and it was a store which sold customized jeans, right? Like makeyourOwnJeans.com. They had like 3 different stores: makeyourOwnJeans.com, Studio Suits, and Leather Cult, right? And this is such a thing that even till date we have only handful of clients from India, right? And our first client was from India, and we still work with him, right? It has been almost 8 to 9 years,
Oh.
and we're still sort of working with him because, of course, we haven't raised our costs, etc. It is like a grandfathered thing that is still going on, but it is such a funny thing, right? And at that time, we had a very lean. No, there was no team at all, right? As a startup, right? It was me and my two other co-founders, right? And we used to sort of work day in and day out just on these three brands, looking for data, looking for, and we do not have in-house designer. All we were doing was like just using the developer tool console to make some changes, adjustments onto the page to make the variant, and then just take a screenshot and present it to the to the business. Okay, this is what we want to test, and if they approved it, of course we were running as a test. But at the same time, we started because again we had a good network being at VW, so that kind of helped us as well. I'll be honest, and that helped us sort of grow our agency in terms of there are two arms at Optiphoenix, wherein one arm is primarily doing optimization, that is end-to-end optimization, whereas the second arm is where we are helping a lot of businesses and CRO agencies do A/B test development, and that is how we sort of grew on our revenue as well. That is helping various agencies who were short on development resources but still had their analysts in-house. We sort of supported them with the development resources, and this is how sort of our journey began at like in 2016 when we were three, and now we are a team of about 75 people in-house. So yeah, this is how it started, and do not remember like failure or success of our tests, initial tests, but I totally remember making certain naive mistakes, right? Being a new optimizer and running our own agency, one thing I remember is, of course, concluding tests too quickly to really like show the business the value of optimization, right? Because again, you learn over time, right? That is what we have learned. It is not the wins that we run for now, it is the insights that matter to the business more, right? And that is how I would differentiate a mature CRO program versus a beginner CRO program, wherein you understand the value of running experiment and not just value of getting a winner.
So tell us more about that, right? So there are like bunch of resources floating around on the internet. There are expensive ones, there are cheaper ones, there are free resources, and this CRO might be a new term for a lot of folks, new folks, right? But since you have been in this domain for 8 years running an agency, as 3 years working with BW and closer, right? So what are still some of the resources, or how does someone who might be entering as a marketer or entering as a designer or even as data analyst who might be interested in CRO, how are these career paths? Like how should one approach it in order to become the top 1% of that? How do you look at that?
Yeah. So I think the most crucial aspect when it comes to optimization is, of course, you need to carry your research very strong, right? And then second skill set that you need to have is storytelling, right? Which is really important, right? I've seen some really good optimizers who are really good with data. They can crunch the numbers, but when it comes to storytelling is like how do you actually pitch your idea back to the business, right, is really really important. And not just pitching the idea, but when you run an experiment, how do you really make up a complete story to deliver what insights have we gathered from that experiment. So storytelling becomes even more important. I have realized this. I know that it is an analogy that a lot of people share on LinkedIn as well, that what I learned from this and about B2B sales. But this is a true story, right? I'll tell you. So I have a 1.5 year toddler at home, right? And at night we often tell him stories, and then at the end of story there is a motto, right? That this is what we learn from a story. And this is exactly what an experiment is, right? When you run an experiment and when you are talking about the report of that experiment, you need to connect the dots, right? That this is the effect on this particular metric, this is the effect on this particular metric, and based on connecting the dots, your experiment should tell a story, right? That this is what we have learned from this experiment, and this is how we can utilize these learnings to really educate the wider stakeholders, right, in the team. So this is how I see it, and I think what I've seen missing from a lot of optimizers is a storytelling piece, right? And it is a very unique skill set, right? CRO is not an easy skill set to have, right? If you want to become a CRO, you need to have knowledge about data, how to really make sense of data, right? How that is, of course, using GA4 or any heat mapping tool, etc. You need to have good knowledge about UI UX. Then you should be good at communicating your idea back to the business. And again, you should know how to deal with like developers and designers, right? So it is like some skill set which is very hard to find. And as an agency, like one of the things that we have faced as a challenge is to actually acquire good CROs in house, right? So being in India, I think there is a challenge, but I hope that, and I've seen like there is a big transformation that is happening, wherein we are able to now at least get some really good guys who are doing CRO for some time. So I think that industry is evolving, and you would see a lot of optimizers and people starting their careers in optimization.
A country like India, which is known for the insane dedication, hard work, talent, and everything, and what seems to be shortcoming for us to aim for something like CRO experts from Netherlands, who Netherlands is one of the places known for the Booking.com and CRO A/B testing and all, right? So what do you think is, as an economy or a country, we are lacking, or it can be some knowledge gap, it can be some mindset, or it can be something, right? So what have you figured out if we are lacking as a society for us to put India in the map on CRO?
I think it all sort of starts from where you are in your digital journey, right? Because India is still young, and I can compare it very well with how African continent is, right? I talk to agencies in South Africa, right? And they have a very similar landscape, right? Wherein the country is still developing. Like as I said, like before COVID, like my mother wouldn't know, right, what is an e-commerce, but post-COVID they know it, right, how to order it on Amazon, for example, right? So the industry is evolving. No one was really wasn't really putting in an conscious effort to optimize their web conversion. So I'll tell you an example. For example, Louis Philippe, Alan Solly, right? They are stores which are conventionally selling it offline, right? They have big number of stores in India, right? And they have been selling it for the last 10 odd years, right? Over there, or maybe more than that. Whereas, when did they start investing and really put a thought behind e-commerce is post-COVID, because their stores were shut down, right? And now they wanted to make sure that they provide that experience online to the users so that they can buy it, right? So it is about the maturity of the market as a whole, which is why till date, again, the problem is not with the talent. The problem is not with the funding or the society that we have. It is just that the mindset was still pretty conventional compared to now, which is more digital first, right? And as I said, like I have seen a lot of changes that has happened within the last 1 year or so, wherein there have been a lot of people who have started their career as an optimization specialist. There are a lot of companies who want optimization specialist in house,
Yeah.
right? So I think this is only going to grow, and as you know, right, India is the one who always follows the trend, right? It is not, and it is a pity that as you started your conversation, right? VWO, which is a tool which started from India and has made a global impact, right? Still, like people do not really know about VWO within India, right? Whereas,
Exactly, right? So no, hardly people know about VW from India, right? So
yeah.
that's a sad reality of
And I
it.
think they have also marketed themselves as a global tool, right? And it's the reason why like they have been really popular in Europe, US, and Australian market. So I think yeah, it is only going to mature as we speak, right? It is going to have we are going to see a big change in how people want to do like CRO, especially with the new companies or new organizations which are evolving, right? Being Shark Tank here in India, right? You can imagine, right? We have spoken to a few of the folks who have been at Shark Tank as well. They have the mindset they want to do optimization, but the challenge is they do not really have the time to really invest in this to really, because they're a short lean teams, right? They do not have a person to really dedicate someone to really do optimization. So that is a challenge. They have a different challenge, but I think they understand data. They understand that this needs to happen on their store.
Makes sense. I mean, the new age brands knows really well. There is a traffic problem they need to figure out. There is a conversion problem that they need to figure out, right?
Yeah.
And most of the agency or the freelancer or the talent, everything is focusing on the traffic problem, right? And conversion problem is part of the thing Optiphoenix and other CRO agencies are involved in, right? So, and
Yeah.
as you said, I believe as well, as we move ahead, we will see more conversion optimizers. I mean, optimize is the right word to put it. Optiphoenix optimizers. It's rhymes actually. So those kind of domains will expand. I mean, it's about time where India will be put in the. I mean, it's just as the market problem as well, right? So, and
Yep.
talking about Optiphoenix, you mentioned you work with Indian brands as well as you work with international brands as well, right? And what has been it working with international brands from India? What is that? What is the difference when they might be already knowing about A/B testing, they might know about CRO, you might not have hard time convincing them, or is it the other way around, or what has been like a difference between them?
So working with big brands within India, I think the experience has been like we have worked with the likes of Taj Hotels, Aditya Birla Fashion Retail Limited, or Lemon Tree Hotels, and a few others. So I think, but the team is bigger, right? And when you're working with the likes of Aditya Birla Fashion Retail Limited, they take a long time to really get someone onboarded, right? So it took us about almost 2 years to get us in there, right, as a vendor, right, as a CRO agency. And they did a complete due diligence in terms of who they want to hire, and probably they were serious as well that they want to do it, right? And the good thing is when you're working with such mature team, they understand the value of data. They understand they're not just after the wins, right? They want to really learn from their experiments, and you want to utilize those learnings across the board, right? And we are helping them sort of build a culture of experimentation, wherein I'm really super happy to say that now they're not rolling out even a single feature without before testing on at least few of their domains. And this has been the biggest impact that we have been able to create within at least ABFRL, that they are not rolling out features without testing, so they understand the value of it. Wherein when it comes to working with a business which is even India or outside India, which is a smaller business, right, which cannot really afford to take risks, right? I think the mindset is different, right? They will probably question the program if it is not getting the wins, right? But I think that is the part that we as an optimizers need to sort of educate, right? That is the insight, because at the end of the day, Felix, like I'll be very honest, right? Like we have run probably 10,000 plus experiments over the last 9 years. Not more than 25 to 30% of your experiments will really will be a win, right? Which means that 70% of the experiments you're not really winning on those. But if you're actually considering them as a loss, right, then I think you're not doing the program or you're not running the program right? What data are we getting from those experiments? How can we use that data to really educate us and educate the business to run a better hypothesis next time is crucial, right? So if you're not learning from those 70% of experiments, of course you're just wasting the time, right? So I think it is important to learn from those losing experiments and make sure that you are adding value with each experiment that you run and not just winning experiments.
So I think there is no success and failure. There is success and learning, right? And
Exactly.
that is
Yeah, rightly.
when it comes to working with brands, right? So the failure, how is it seen as? Do all the brands take it as a learning when you try to work with them, or do they say, "Oh, these guys are wasting our money"? And like, how have how is the handling a client, a business, like each client can be different. As you said in the beginning, there is a storyboard you communicate throughout the to the client as well, to the business as well, right? So how does that evolve when you have a failure or a failure or when the test didn't win? And that's one question. Second question is, the brands like booking.com, Airbnb, everything, or Netflix, or any of the brands, they deploy a feature as a test, not to the whole audience, right? And that mind shift change has, as you mentioned, I'm glad that Optiphoenix has a play in, at least in the Indian brand context, right? So that, and everything should be experimented, right? So even when I'm learning about this topic, I'm seeing everything in the universe is experimenting, right? So it's not about the product; it has everything has experimented, has a good product way, right? So yeah, talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're right that not every brand will take a failure as a fail, like insights or learnings, right? They would look for like wins or they would look for revenue uplift, which is fine, right? Because we understand at the end of the day it should make them money, right? But sometimes we try to sort of educate the client that this is what you're learning, and if that is not going to work out this way, I think sometimes we have to put down the client as well and we find a way to exit as well, right? So not every client is a wise client to run an experimentation program. Sometimes it is just good enough to really do. So there is a difference between doing CRO versus doing an A/B testing, right? So sometimes it is better to do CRO, like data driven optimization, and leave the client there, right? Because they are not going to understand experimentation or A/B testing, or they do not have the patience to let the test run for 3-4 weeks to really get an outcome, right? So sometimes it is better that okay, you improve their baseline and you move away, right? If you understand early while working with the client that how they are able to take, or if they have the patience to really run an experiment, right? So again, it is education which comes right from the start, right? Whenever you're selling it, you're not selling the wins, and this is something that we make sure that we never ever commit that we will work. A lot of times we get asked, can you work on a performance model, right? If you give us X% uplift, only then we will pay you like Y%. And the clear answer is no, because that is for the dying industries, and CRO is not a dying industry. It is not as competitive as it is, because as I said, like this is our core belief. We run experiments. There will never be a like loss, as you said. There either be learnings or there will be win, right? So you are not at loss. So why should we be, right? So again, we never work on a model which is like a performance-based model, and I would recommend any CRO consultant or freelancer or agency not to work in this way, right? Because you are creating value, you are putting a lot of effort doing the research, design, development, and then analyzing the test results. So why should you work for free, right? So again, I think yeah. So this is how I see it, right? Like failure versus wins, right? And how you should be educating the client. And what could be an alternate way, right? If the client is not able to sort of get it. So I think there was another question, Felix, right?
You
That you
do
had.
everything as an experiment in the life when you are running a CRO agency. I talk to people who are CRO experts, right? So they consider it's a path of life. Experimentation. You do. There's no failure. There is always success or learning, right? So how is your mindset? If not work, how do you see CRO in your daily usage?
Oh yes, no, that's a very good question. I think I always talk to my wife, right, about like because our kid is growing, right, and every day is an experiment with him, right.
Yeah.
So for example, like switching off the light and then making him sleep, like does that work better, right? Or like maybe give him a bottle of milk, and if he like sort of drinks between 200 and 250 ml, right, he sleeps better, right? And then sometimes she argues that okay, then now whatever we have fed him has worked, right? But I say probably the sample size is low, right? So we need to test it over and over again to see that if it is really winning. So of course, like as an optimizer, right, as an experimentation specialist, this will naturally come to you, right, in everyday life, right, whatever you do, I think, and then you learn, right, that okay, probably and you learn about the behavior as well, right? Because you're studying online user behavior, you of course apply that offline as well, right? So if someone is sort of behaving in a certain way, you know that it is an impulsive sort of behavior, right? And probably it is the emotions are taking over, right? So it is the day to day we sort of apply those psychological principles, emotional principles, right? Online psychology, right? On web, and that of course you relate it to offline on a day to day life as well.
Yeah, makes sense. And I'm also on the same path, same to you, and just I'm learning applies to everything in the life. It's one of the no, it's a magical universe. Like, things there. I talk about tools, and I remember you mentioning Optiphoenix is not just a CRO, there's part of A/B testing, right? So, and there are a bunch of tools out there like BW, A/B testing. Oh, for Felix, we also have A/B testing tool. We have A/B Final, which is A/B testing.
Yeah.
Shopify, we just did the Shopify app or the Shopify store.
Yeah.
I'll also give you a call after that, after this session as well. So, regarding the tools you use, right? So, you mentioned you also develop A/B tests and trying to understand that although there are tools out there, what is the missing element which Optiphoenix fills in as a tool partner? Like how do you guys work, in terms of tooling or providing support for developer tooling in the brands sector?
Sure. I think there are some really good tools out there in the market, right? Like it depends upon like what do you want to really achieve, right? So as an agency, I certainly believe that unless security and compliance, etc., is something that your organization cares about, then probably there are tools like Optimizely or Chameleon, right, that you should be considering. But if that is not really a big thing, right, within your organization, then I think any A/B testing tool which does the job well for splitting the traffic, right, and deliver a good experience can be used for A/B testing, right? Like, see how Google Optimize was, right? There were tons of flaws within that tool, but one thing that it did well was to split the traffic,
Yeah.
and then rest of the things you could actually visualize in analytics, right? So if you have a mature team in house or you are using an agency, right, you do not really need a very sophisticated A/B testing tool, right? Because you can easily visualize all your data and analytics, right, by integrating. So one thing that I think a A/B testing tool should do as a must is to integrate really well with these third-party tools, which usually majority of the stores use as the source of truth, right? Uh, so again, if in case you're still young, right, in terms of your maturity, then again I think VWO, because it has a very simple interface, easy to use, right? I think that is something that we can consider, or even Convert.com, right, which is like cost friendly, at the same time has a decent reporting suite, is developer friendly as well. So I think, yeah, I think those tools are there. I haven't used AB Final before, right, but would love to know, because I think there is a big scope. A lot of our customers are on Shopify as well, right? Some of the really big stores are now moving on to Shopify with millions of traffic, right? So I think there is a huge scope, and I think we should talk more about AB Final as well, because sometimes we do get asked by our clients as well, right? Why not you use a native A/B testing tool which is like to Shopify, right? So I think I would love. I think one, I don't know, like one of the things that came from while talking to Bummer, I think, was, I think he mentioned about one of the tools as well. I think it was Shoplift.ai, right? I think that is also native
Yep.
Shopify testing tool,
Yep.
right? So I think there are some interesting sort of native tools to Shopify as well, which I would love to learn more from you, Felix.
Definitely. I mean, just to be on context, we have been in the Shopify ecosystem for the last 3 years. We have over 16 apps on Shopify App Store, and AB is one of the apps which powers the stores. outside. So I'm talking about the native part. In each tools, you have to copy paste JavaScript, which can cause page flickering, and even the images you load from the CDN also matters. Those
Okay,
small
yeah,
gaps.
sure.
So and that is solved in here if you build it native. That's one thing. Then if you build it, so our tool has something called price testing. You can change the price as well
Okay.
along
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. Is
And
it similar to how intelligence work
Yes,
as well?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So we have this price testing. Inlet is a bit expensive side. We are more of a cheaper side in
Sure.
compare. So the price testing can only be done can only be done in native. It cannot be done by the you have to update it from the admin
Yeah,
backend.
yeah.
So it is just a visual tool. I mean that's one of few things I observe when we were building out this tool as well. I would love to show you demo as well after this call as well, right?
Why not?
There is a role you have taken up than Optiphoenix, right? So you are also part of something called Go Group Digital, right? So tell us more about that, what that role is, and I think there is a optimizes annual gathering or something like that. Tell us more. I'm just very curious on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, sure. So that was a group that got started, and it is not formally there right now. But what we have, of course, done is with that group is we have been able to take optimization from India to like into a global market with that group,
Hmm.
right? So that group was also responsible for like delivering a sort of a global entity when it comes to optimization. So, for example, if you're so it has a combination of an agency from North America, Nordics, couple of agencies from Europe, we are from India, and then an agency from Australia. So we had a bunch of like very close, tightly knitted group of 7 to 8 agencies. And the primary motive of the group was to deliver a global optimization strategy for the brands like, for example, Domino's or Mercedes or BMW, which are like present across the globe, so that we can cater to them locally, right? And at the same time, of course, exchange thoughts and processes within the CRO space and what each one of us is doing. And again, at the end of the day, sort of helping each other out as well with respect to how we can help each other grow within this space. So with that, of course, we have formed a very close relationship across various different agencies. And as I said, like one of the models that we have at Optiphoenix is helping the agencies with dev resources. And we have been sort of fortunate enough to be associated with a group where we have helped each one, every agency within that group with this development resource. And and that tells me a success. That reminds me of a success story as well, Felix, wherein a couple of agencies that we have held in the past have sort of been acquired by a group, right? And a very close friend of mine, Nima Yassini from New Republic, who has sort of sold New Republic to Deloitte, and that is what he tells us, right? I would quote him here, that we were the backbone of his engineering team and really helped him sort of sell the company to Deloitte, to the likes of Deloitte Digital, right? So that is the type of value that we often try to create with all our partners. That is, we never want to work as a vendor, but rather work as a extended part of your team. Be it like we are doing CRO or be it we are doing sort of development, right? So either ways, we always want to work as a team and as an extended entity of your team.
Hmm. Excellent. You mentioned some names, right? What are some of the other names you want to quote on here? Maybe over the last 10 years of your
So
career, there might be some folks, be it parents working with VW, or be it some other folks. Tell us some names. Maybe I can bring them on the podcast as well. Would love to share their journey as well.
why not? I think there are a bunch of folks who I have learned very like from personally. Of course, Paras and Spurge from VW, who are definitely uh, doing their job right in expanding CRO into the global market. Whereas, again, Johan Van Tonder, I think you also mentioned previously about AI, right, and how AI is being used in Sierra. I think these guys are some of the guys that probably should definitely follow if you want to learn more about how AI is impacting Sierra, because they are doing a pretty hands-on work on a day-to-day basis, and they keep sharing their learnings over LinkedIn, right? So probably Johan Van Tonder from AWA Digital. Then there is Craig Sullivan from Optimize or Die, and Iqbal Ali, who has actually built his own tool, which is simply meant to sort of use AI to really do analysis of your bigger data sets, such as your testimonials, your the user reviews on Trustpilot, the surveys, right, or various different things, so that when you have a bunch load of data, how you can analyze and like, put together themes across what people are saying, right? So basically, doing voice of customer analysis. And Sean David is there, right, who's doing some really cool work around this. But I have personally really learned a lot from the likes of Johan, who we are a very close partner with AWM. We've been working together since probably 2017, 18. And he's one of the guys who is a veteran in this space. I think they have been doing it since 2010. So big guru, right? And they have worked with the likes of Canon, Nike, Avis, and plenty others, right? So again, I think someone to definitely follow. Nima, as I said, from New Republic, Steven Pavlovich from Conversion.com. So I think there are some really good names, right? I think you should definitely learn. You can definitely learn from them, even if you do not do anything, but just follow them on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn over the last 6 months or something is where I got to learn more about CR or A/B testing, right? And LinkedIn is for the audience as well might be the best place to get updated about. There are people who share the case studies of the clients they work with and everything. So there are always learnings, right? Kind of the storyboard, or some people put it out as an agencies put out those things. Then the what do you call the next generation of CRO experts or someone could be learn from it, right? So, and LinkedIn is one place where brands or the founders or agencies or tool founders as well put out their content and learnings, which helps others as well. And that's one way to penetrate the market and make the market bigger, and that will be there will be opportunities for all of us. That is how I see it. Although there are like very limited number of people who are doing it. So and coming to the end of the question, right? So we briefly touched about the AI, right? So how do you see the AI coming into CRO? How do you think do CRO folks still have a relevance, or do you think the market is going to get bigger with CRO with AI? And where do you see the market evolving into? What is your thoughts from your point of view?
This is how I see it, like AI in any space, Felix. And of course, CRO is no different, right? Of course, you can use AI as your assistant, right? So treat it as your servant, right? And make AI do your job, right, in a more efficient manner, right? So if you are doing a certain thing, such as analysis of your surveys or analysis of your user testing, and you're taking, let's say, 7 hours to do it, let AI do that job within like 7 minutes, right? So use it as a servant, right? Treat it like, okay, what do I want to get from AI, right? And if you like it, keep it. If you do not like it, reject it, right? So do be the master and not the servant, right? This is how I see it. And I think AI has already sort of made a lot of progress, and as we speak, few things are already becoming obsolete, right? And that is how fast it is growing, right? Each day you get to see something new in this space, right? How we are essentially using AI, of course, like doing user testing analysis. Of course, user testing, like if you have to view each video, right, for user testing or usability testing, it would take 30 minutes for you to view it. You can rather download the transcripts, upload into a tool such as Insights 7 or similar, right, to generate the insights, right, and produce themes and patterns, or sort of fetch the data from, let's say, Hotjar surveys, right, and feed it into AI. And then, of course, you need to be smart enough to really ask questions, right, to AI, right, to really get the meaningful insights from it, right. And as I said, right, if you follow these folks, right, you will get to know each day, right, how it is being used, right, and how you can really get most out of it, right. And it is not going to replace you as an optimization specialist. I don't believe so. right? But I think definitely it is going to make the life easier for an optimization specialist, right? You may be able to handle maybe few more projects, right? And that is how one should see it, right? So it should not be considered as someone who is going to steal your job, right? But rather make you more efficient at what you do and rather more productive at what you do.
Hmm. Makes sense. And one of the correlate thing to the AI, right? So we've been, AB final. One of the things we did and learned that for a test to be created, there are at least 16 steps or something. It's like a bunch of things, test name, the test everything. So what we did was, what if we could do it in 3 steps? That's how the tool we built it out right from the AI. So how would a tool, A/B testing tool, look like if it is made in the time of AI? So that's how we fundamentally rethought the whole thing. So a lot
Okay.
of steps can be omitted and write the statement, and they can edit it later on. So it just the kind of time it takes to start a test to run test. Even the system we have, I'll show you a demo of that as well. It will suggest you what kind of test to run based on previous
Okay.
data. So it makes easier. There should be someone as well to run it. It doesn't mean they will do a good job in doing right there. So that's how we fundamentally thought about the whole industry. And more people needs to be having an experimenting. I think you briefly mentioned about the culture of experimentation, right? So that is something the organizations, be it any industry, has to have. I seen there is a role called head of experimentation when it comes to Netflix or any big companies. Experimentation is a role, and I hope to see one day brands from India also, or the business from India also have a role for that head of experimentation. Be there to continuously experiment, success
I
with.
think you can probably I certainly believe that you will see that happening in 2025 to 2026. I think that is not far away as far as I see the market here in India.
Awesome.
I think that is very near.
And for the audience, how do people find you now? What's the best way to reach out to you?
So of course I'm reachable on LinkedIn, and then of course at simmer@optiphoenix.com. I think these are the two best ways to reach out. And if in case you have any questions or if you think otherwise about what I have said,
Yeah.
happy to have a debate about it, right? And of course healthy discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Simar, again for we've been planning to do this podcast for a while, and thanks for sharing all these learnings as well and paying it forward to the other folks in the community. And I hope to do few more episodes on the next season as well, right? So and look forward to share the learnings as well with, and also obviously to show the demo of the tool we're working on. I'm sure this will be the one of the Shopify brands we'll be working with could easily plug into their system and get the thing rolling, right? So I'm very eager to show you that as well.
No, thanks Felix for having me, and I hope I was able to provide some meaningful insights which are helpful for the audience. Well, thanks again for having me.
Sure. Thank you, and see you around. Bye.